Hello and welcome to The Game Lobby, a show where gamers come to discuss all things video games. Today we have a great group of students from Milwaukee Area Technical College's Computer Simulation and Gaming program. To my far right over here is Jesse Jacobson, a student in the Computer Simulation and Gaming program at MATC. Thanks for being here, Jesse.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Our next guest tonight is Jeremy Likas, a second semester student in the CSG program. Jeremy, glad to have you on the show.
Glad that you guys having me.
All right, excellent. To my left over here is our female correspondent, Claire Mukai, also a student. Claire, thanks for joining in with the guys tonight. We appreciate it. Excellent. Must be pretty intimidating for you.
Not really.
No? Okay, great. And finally, to my far left, don't think I didn't forget about you, Paul Drankowitz. Glad to have you on the show this evening, Paul.
Yep.
Excellent. Well, now that we're all acquainted, I am your host, Tanner Burke, and I will be the mediator slash pretty much going to prevent these people from killing each other tonight. Let's dive into our first topic for discussion. It's a big topic in the gaming world, the console wars. Whenever a new generation system comes out, it's always a big topic. But as of late November, the console wars seems to be but a distant memory to most of us. But Microsoft and Sony will never be at rest with each other. Paul, do you think at this time there is a winner between Xbox One and PS4?
I mean, not really, because you can say that PlayStation 4 has sold more units than Xbox One.
Do you think that has to do with the cost of, I mean, it's $100 cheaper. Do you think that plays a lot in on who chooses what system?
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I think it was just the way Xbox One marketed itself to gamers.
Okay.
They failed miserably, but
Absolutely.
They kind of brought themselves back up. I mean, with PS4 being cheaper, it's still making more money. So.
Okay, that's a great point. You guys have anything to add?
No, I totally agree with Paul.
Yeah.
No,
They're doing really well. I mean, competing with each other, but I mean, mostly because Microsoft decided to back out on a lot of their ways things they were going to do. The price difference is a big one. I do believe the PS4 is winning just based off of that non-physical elements of the trust factor that they really got all the gamers on their side right away. As Microsoft had to build back up from that after what happened. So
Definitely.
I watched the release for the trailer, and I was watching it for the Xbox One, and I'm like, all right, where's the gaming?
yeah, exactly.
TV, streaming.
Well,
internet,
that thing
where's the
was
gaming?
for investors when they did that release. So they were trying to get investors to say, hey, this is what we're selling. We're selling a home entertainment system, but not a game console, which they kind of brought that back at E3. So
Now, we all know that, I mean, that obviously the history of PlayStation and Xbox have proven obviously to be game consoles, and this next gen has taken that shift towards complete home entertainment systems, hence the Xbox One. You know, it's your complete home entertainment system. Do you think that shift into the home entertainment system will eventually deplete the idea that Microsoft and Sony, their consoles are gaming consoles, or do you think it'll just become more of just an entertainment system? I mean, anyone, I guess, at this.
I mean, I could see that happening, but I think if they get to that point, it'll be, that'll be maybe PC's time to shine and jump in and save the day for gamers. But if they continue to fight the way they are, I think that it's going to be a great opportunity for PC to start climbing up the charts in the background in the shadows.
PC's already climbing up the charts in the background.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, on defensive consoles, so I mean, it's a balance. You have to find the balance between entertainment and actually gaming focus. And Microsoft lost that for a little while, and Sony kind of swooped in and was like, okay, that's why they really kind of threw it at Microsoft, saying we're going to focus on games. And that was really what won it there for a while. So a lot of people, when it initially happened, all over Reddit and all over the social sites, things like that, people were just like, just saying off to Microsoft, saying that they aren't going to go with Xbox. Even people who were Xbox gamers primarily, they were going over to Sony just for that. So they were able to get a lot of it back, but I mean, that was a hit for them.
That and like when you think about the home entertainment thing, like Xbox is charging for you to stream. When PS4 it's free. Like you don't need you can, to get their PlayStation Network stuff, you obviously need a PlayStation Network account, but to Netflix you don't need to pay for anything extra. But Xbox One you have to pay like $50 a year.
Yeah.
That seems to be, I mean, I know with Xbox 360 and the PS3, that was a huge factor of who's going to buy which console. And I mean, basically, when I chose to get an Xbox 360, I pretty much bit the bullet saying that I accept the fact that I'm going to have to pay this amount of money to play online. And with the PS3, it wasn't really necessarily a factor. You just, you get your PSN network ID or whatever, and you go and play your games. But the quality of the entertainment online wasn't necessarily, from my personal experience, it wasn't necessarily as good as the Xbox Live. But now that we're in this next gen where both systems are charging you to have your online account, but PlayStation seems to have somewhat of an edge because they're not charging you to do your online streaming, to do all that kind of stuff. Do you think that has anything to play with who's deciding on which console, the kind of online capabilities?
Both systems have a $50 and $60 yearly subscription, which, if you're people like, for me, example, I have both. And when you pick both, it comes down to value. Sometimes it's not about the cost or having to have it, because if you already have it, it's not an issue about the streaming stuff. So it's what you get for it. Now, a big issue is that Microsoft really doesn't have as much value as for what you're getting compared to the PS4. PlayStation Plus gives you so much stuff. For example, I had the 360 since launch, and it's still not full, and I have lots of games for the 360. Whereas my PS3, which was twice as large as hard drive, filled up in less than a year from all the free stuff Sony gives away. So that $50, $60 value might pay for different things, basically.
So you're saying that PlayStation is giving you more, what kind of extra content, like extra downloadable games and stuff that you could play, and like apps and stuff, or
the amount of free games that you can get from PlayStation Plus is a significant winning factor for them. And they're like high-end games too, like AAA titles that sometimes are less than a year old. You can get some really good games on there.
You'll get a lot of 2 free games a month, and then they'll keep the games for a little bit.
Well, that's kind of weird because like 360,
they started that now.
We have 2 free games a month, but I hear complaints from Xbox One users who they upgraded to next gen. They're not getting free content.
Exactly.
But yet the 360 still is. So they're like, why'd I even upgrade?
And the games with gold just doesn't. It feels like a poor copycat. It doesn't give the same value. They're releasing much older games that a lot of people, they released Halo 3, I believe.
Yeah, Halo 3 and Assassin's Creed 2.
They're releasing games. They actually released console games that people bought the console for, and games that are really old. Whereas on PlayStation Plus, you're getting games that are high end, less than a year old. So just
you
like
must
the
have missed
value.
the Magic the Gathering download.
Oh man.
I think they'd be better off if they brought games that not a lot of people bought that people liked. They're the more popular ones, but
more recent ones.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what PlayStation does. They have high end games that didn't have as many sales. But even they don't even always do that. Like BioShock Infinite was a lot of people's game of the year, and that was free on PlayStation Plus.
Definitely.
So some high end games that were huge sellers.
To be fair with the PlayStation 4, they don't have any games that people want to play right now.
It's true. There aren't a lot of good. Sorry, there's not a whole lot of next gen games out there. Like some of the biggest one, Watch Dogs. That would have been a major PS4 game. That was delayed.
Yeah.
Titanfall is not even out yet. A lot of the big next gen games aren't even out yet. So that was probably one of the hindrances.
That's a great point. Moving on to exactly what you're saying right there with the games. Obviously Sony and Microsoft are going to be battling like Tom and Jerry, ever battling and never quitting, that is. Which brings me to our next topic. Now that Xbox One and PS4 are on the market, like we said, there are some big name titles are fastly approaching. Titanfall and Destiny are 2 that really seem to be on many gamers' minds. Jeremy, Titanfall is just a few days away. Do you think Respawn has the next great video game, or is it just another one-and-done blockbuster?
I think they're doing a good job steering away from Call of Duty because it's coming more like a Madden series where it's the same game but just different storyline, different meshes. I think it is a step forward towards next generation gaming. Do I think that it'll go very far after that? No, I think something better is going to come out, next year, something that we haven't heard about. They just announced Evolve for Valve, so that's another, competitor that they're
Turtle
gonna
Rock
have.
Studios.
Yeah.
The thing with Titanfall, it's never going to have the popularity that Modern Warfare did. That game is still going to be people's game of the generation for that console system. I don't see them living up to that.
I think going up against Destiny, they're going to have a hard time because they purposely decided to make it a multiplayer-only game, and they purposely decided to only go on Microsoft. So they're limiting themselves significantly, like who they're working with. And,
Right.
there are a lot of gamers out there who prefer single-player games, who prefer games that you don't need to be online all the time. Games that, I mean, on all the PS4 users, I mean, that was a significant hindrance, especially since they're going up against Destiny, which, aside from the mechs, is essentially a very similar game, but it's on all the systems and it's available for even
Right.
past gens. So
Yeah, well, they lost me right away because they're both first-person shooters, and I'm not a big first-person shooter. I'll take an RPG over a first-person shooter any day of the week. But the fact that I can only play online, there's no solo campaign mode, totally lost me.
yeah, and that's why Destiny would appeal to you over
Yeah.
Titanfall. You had that solo option.
I mean, the
Right.
mech thing is cool. Like the
It
Titans,
is.
those are really, really cool.
That's
It's
one
going to be a
advantage
really good
that
game.
Xbox has got an advantage because they have Titanfall and Destiny,
It'll sit,
whereas the PlayStation is only going to have Destiny.
Titanfall's a
Right.
system seller. Like,
Yes. Oh, for
there's
sure.
No doubt.
Plus, it's also going to be an interesting battle between just like the developers and stuff, because we got X Halo, we got Bungie going up against like X Call of Duty. So it's like we have like two X companies coming together with major.
Yeah, and
shooters.
if you watch the trailers, though, you can just totally see Call of Duty and Halo styles bleeding in. Like when I watched the Destiny trailer, like before I even knew that it was a Halo, developed game,
Yeah.
like I was like, wow, this looks like Halo.
Right.
It's not really a bad thing, though. I mean,
No.
those
I mean,
are
you-
popular games.
You're
that
trying to
make you
get
a lot
people
of money.
Yeah, you're trying to get
interested
people
in
to
your
switch over.
game, with familiarities, like
Yeah.
they're familiar with Halo,
Right.
so they see that, like, oh, they're gonna be drawn
so it's
to
like
it.
Halo, but
You're
Oh.
attracting the gamers who are already addicted to your game. They've been addicted to your game since the original Halo or since the original Call of Duty, and you're kind of, I mean, that is your style. You're playing off of what you were made for. You're playing off of what made you the company that you are. So, I mean, that's kind of I feel like to me that's a big part of, if I get this game from Bungie, I expect it to have some level of similarity to Halo. I mean, do you think that's a good thing, or do you think Bungie needs to move on to, do you think they need to stray a little farther away from the Halo kind of similarities?
I think their reputation is going to help them a little bit in sales, but they run the risk of making this huge production that doesn't have a whole lot of lore behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Like their entire books and people that know everything about Halo. Halo has its own universe, and you know everything about it. Like people who like Halo know everything about Halo
True.
and the universe. So we're creating a new IP with new universe, new everything. They're gonna have to quickly capture people that's in the same way Halo did. So I mean, they can do it. It'd just be a little bit difficult.
Yeah, the lore was quite sparse when I was on their website.
Yeah, I mean, right now we know very little about Destiny and what it's at. We know it's a shooter. We know it's a persistent world,
Right.
and it has aliens. I mean, we don't know a whole lot about it. So
A lot of character creation. I was reading like just different character classes per se is going to be on Destiny, so I mean that'll be kind of interesting concept to bring into a Halo theme type game.
Titanfall will probably do the same.
And Titanfall will do the same.
yeah, as far as Destiny goes, Halo had a lot of magic to it. There's the relationship you had with Cortana and Master Chief and the actual story. It had its own very important single-player story that people connected to. So you have to capture that same magic. You can't just create a new IP with similar
Right.
environment that reminds you of Halo. You have to capture that same thing in order for it to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, going along with what you had mentioned before, you're not typically a first-person shooter kind of person. I'm not really a huge MMORG gamer, but I am intrigued by the idea that Destiny, Bungie at E3 avoided identifying it as a traditional MMO since it lacks certain elements that most MMOs are known for. Instead, they refer to it as a shared world shooter. Having the opportunity to play the campaign online with people in this massive world, do you think this might kind of change the way developers come up with their first-person shooters? Do you think they might kind of jump on the bandwagon depending on how Destiny kind of takes off?
I think another big thing is episodic, creating an emotional attachment to a character. I think if they write this story out right and get some people emotionally attached to the storyline and wanting to know what's going to happen next, I mean, it could be good, but the design has to be pretty much on cue.
Okay.
I
Is
mean,
there a limit to the amount of players in the world for
I
Destiny?
they match it up with a group of people. So depending on where you are in the world, you interact with a group of people. It's not the same as, like World of Warcraft, where you have everyone playing under the same world, the same environment at the same time. They limit it to a number of people, but depending on where you are and where you go, that determines
right,
who,
because I know
who you're with.
Titanfall, like even though they call Titanfall an MMO, it's a cap of 12 people.
Right.
It's a 6 versus 6 teams.
So it's kind of an MMO, but it's right.
Yeah.
It's basically like a multiplayer only
Right.
game.
Okay, so Paul, if you had to choose Destiny or Titanfall,
I mean, I'm more interested in Titanfall because I think the mechs thing is really cool. I played Halos 1 and 2. Halo 3 I never really got into, so I could care less about Destiny. So, and Titanfall, I don't know, it just appeals more to me because I really liked the people at Infinity Ward back then. So, and my brother has an Xbox
The AI
One.
in that game is ridiculous too. There's some new AI that they're bringing in. I was reading up
Jumping up on walls and stuff.
Yeah,
Parkour
that
looks awesome.
that looks awesome. Yeah, they definitely have a step up.
do you guys
Remote
have any
camp must be
opinion,
awesome.
Titanfall or Destiny?
I would actually have to go the other way, Destiny, just because I feel like the all the way around the more spread out systems. I think it's also kind of like you were saying, that shared world. It feels like they're trying to improve the single player aspect,
Right.
where
Yeah, that's
90%
nice.
is your solo adventure, but you have the opportunity to have people jump in. It feels almost a lot more like real life, where you're going your own way, but you have interactions that are more realistic. Plus, I mean, I'm more of a single player campaign oriented person. So once I found out Titanfall was multiplayer only, it just lost a lot of appeal. As cool as the mechs look, I love Halo. So I hope they can capture the same magic and lore in Destiny as they did in Halo.
If
Definitely.
they capture it
I'm in
like
the
how
same boat.
Journey did it.
Journey was amazing. So.
Well, I think obviously the console wars are not done yet, and from the looks over the past decade, they never will be. These titles to launch will definitely spice up the competition. Keep an eye open for Destiny and Titanfall. They're coming out soon. Well, now talking about competition. Earlier this month, we had a chance to meet up with our guests and have them play a friendly game of Mario Kart Double Dash Classic. Let's take a look.
Oh, there we go. Nice.
This is very helpful.
Yes, it is until you do a U-turn.
Yeah, exactly. You run it's like you get hit by a who gets a power up right away? Like always get hit with something.
Eat it. Oh, I just ate it too. Oh, banana. Oh, water.
I have a feeling he's lying.
Yep. And right into the dirt. How did I get in fourth all of a sudden?
Right, I was in the air. That was crazy. Mid jump. Zeus just came out of nowhere. Oh, in the air, yes. Oh, there's a banana.
There we go.
Dang it.
Back in first, beating Paul. Paul tries to take me.
Oh, come
And
on.
they just
Paul can't win. Paul can't win.
oh, come on, Blue Shell really, who did that?
That was me.
I was in first place.
I'm sorry. I was aiming for
Yes.
Paul.
And I just hit myself. I hate it when
You're
that
really good
happens.
at doing it.
Well, it's like some of the power-ups are too slow for the clock, right?
Dang it.
Dang it.
Put me in first. Woo, woo,
I was in
woo, woo.
first.
Uh-oh, you can't get me, no. How do you jump? C-stick, huh? dying. Everyone's getting out. I just got hit 3 times in a row.
No, I was in first. I was gonna die again. No, I'm not gonna die again. No. I was in first. Blue fell to the 4th place. Really, I was in first.
Well, I have to give you a hand, Claire. That was a surprise to us all, but congratulations on your victory.
Thank you.
As a consolation prize, here's a piece of paper acknowledging your win, which just happens to be written in permanent brand permanent marker, which is that's razzmatazz. It is a very popular color.
Don't you wish you had
Lucky.
it?
I do. The Game Lobby, brought to you by Permanent Brand Permanent Markers, Perm Manly, Perm Estates and Holdings. Sorry. I have to tell you, folks, nothing beats those classic games. And well, speaking of classic games, our final topic for the night will cover just that. Vintage classic games. Claire, since you are a winner, we'll start with you. Obviously, we grew up with an interesting era of games. We had the NES, we had the Sega Genesis, the Super NES. I mean, even if you're, depending on how old we all are, maybe even Atari. I don't know.
I was going to say, I think I have years on all of you.
We won't get into that. Don't worry, we won't date ourselves. But what did classic video games, I mean, I can go back right now and I can play Kirby, I can play Super Mario Brothers and sit there for hours, or as long as my NES will cooperate. What did those classic games, those 32-bit, 16-bit games do right, and what kind of things should new game developers be thinking about, maybe bring some of those techniques back to our new games?
Learning curve. I mean, anybody can pick up a retro game and pick up on it quickly and make it fun to the point where it doesn't matter how long you've played it or not. It's pretty easy to pick up and have competition without being blown out of the water, unlike games today where, half the time you need to look up a strategy guide to figure things out.
Exactly. What do you guys think?
I mean, yeah, like I said, the simplicity factor. I mean, I think a lot of games now are you get so attached to your character, and you have your character. It's a level, or Paragon, or you've been working on this character for months and months and months. You don't want anybody touching your baby. Mm-hmm. Whereas back in the old school games, it doesn't really matter. Anybody can pick up your console, and everybody can play together. You're not really worrying about anybody messing up that character.
Right.
It also evolved a little bit of portability to it, probably leading to the success of the mobile gaming industry. As games progressed and got more and more complicated, they got better faster than the simple games. I mean, those moved to the more portable. So it's probably like that, like Mario and the simple games has probably led to like that. So the ability to take the games with us, so we're not at home sitting on a console.
Right.
Yeah, but the one problem with mobile gaming is it's really hard to play with other people.
It's true.
Unless it's Words with Friends or something.
Yeah.
Which.
Now, I'm a big fan of better graphics equal better game, but in a lot of cases that might not necessarily be like the truth. Do you think? I mean, like I said before, I can go back and play these old games from my childhood and have a blast. The next generation of youth, I don't think that might necessarily be the case. But do you think that? And Paul, I'll ask you. Do you think that new developers, if they consider going back to some of these old gaming techniques like the 32 and the 16-bit, or even, we'll talk about the N64. Super Mario 64 was a revolutionary game. Same with GoldenEye. Do you think some of that simplicity might or should be brought back to our new next generation systems?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, simple games are nice to just pick up and play. It's anyone, I can just find someone in my house and just pick up Mario 3D World and play it. But there is a place for the new games with the complicated stories and I don't know, complicated buttons.
Right.
I mean, I don't really, because we are seeing indie developers making these retro games and they're really cool, but sometimes they're just I get retro fatigue.
Right.
But
retro fatigue.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Retro fatigue.
You can use that.
Oh, I'm
But-
stealing that.
Yeah.
You
That's
can
great.
apply great graphics to simple games too. I mean, you can have the best of both
Definitely,
worlds. like if you take a modern Mario game on like
Yeah,
the Wii
Mario
U or
3D
something.
World.
Exactly. Yeah,
They're
like
the same simplicity, same simple Mario that we grew up with. But I mean, with that, I mean, even on the 3DS, it's almost the same exact thing. But the quality, the graphic quality, and it just makes it a little more in depth. But anyways, the next game is about to start, so you know what that means. We must end our discussion here. I'd like to thank all of my guests for joining me today on the Game Lobby. We had a great discussion. And for you viewers at home, remember this. Gamers debate, gamers dig, gamers get pwned, gamers pwn, and Game Lobby delivers. I'm Tanner Burke, and we'll see you next time on the Game Lobby. Thanks for joining us.